All right, good evening. My name is Yardell Perkins. I'm the co-host and co-founder of Smart Real Estate Podcast, also a manager of Philly Landlord Association. And the point of this podcast is we're trying to continue to bring timely, actionable, and quality information to all the viewers and members of our organization so they can continue to create, manage, and build all of their real estate managements and properties. And tonight, I'm happy to have back with us one of our returning guests. Her name is Kelsey Lee of PhillyKelsey&Co, our resident expert guru for all things pertaining to building permits. Kelsey, thank you for joining us again.
Thank you. Thank you, Yardell. I really appreciate the opportunity. And, despite what my background portrays, this year has not been a beach. But I hope that the information that I'm sharing tonight on some very time-sensitive matters makes your life a little bit easier. So I am the owner and founder, president, lead expediter of a firm called PhillyKelsey&Co. And we manage all aspects of licensing and permitting for real estate. So residential, commercial, and brick and mortar retail, which there hasn't really been much movement with retail this year just because of the shutdown. But I hope that the information I'm preparing will enable you to not only complete and get the full value of all of the improvements that you've made this year on your existing properties, but to prepare for next year. So I have some information here. As a disclosure, I am not an attorney, and I am a licensed expediter. So what that means, according to the city of Philadelphia, is that I'm granted the permission to be able to handle such matters as it pertains to licensing and inspections, which of course dips into other city departments as well. So really where our expertise comes into play is communicating information, educating our clients, and knowing who to go to for questions. It's always, it's a weird situation this year because so many procedural changes have been enacted, and it makes it very difficult for people to keep up on the latest application process. So we're here to deliver the quickest way to get your application processed for tax abatements and get you the information that you need in order to be successful.
Yeah, thank you. And that's pretty much what inspired this podcast. You recently put out a newsletter notification regarding a deadline that's coming up very soon. Could you just speak briefly about that?
Yes. So the email that I had sent, I have an email list, and you can actually join my email list if you go to our website, PhillyKelsey.Co, and just submit your information to be added to the e-newsletter. So this particular time of year is always a bit of a flurry. The ordinance for residential rehabs for the tax abatement and construction tax, in order to file and get your maximum value on your tax on your tax abatement, you have to submit your tax abatement application before the 31st of this month, which is the last day of this year, in order to have all of the required application materials to supplement your application. You have to have had an issued building permit. So official copy from the city of Philadelphia, and it must have been issued this year. And so that means if you wait to apply, it's going to be very, very challenging. I've been instructed to file these applications within the timeline And whether they're complete or not, at least you get it in on time. And the city will give you the opportunity to supplement the application with additional materials if requested. So this particular ordinance, which is, let's see, yeah, it's the Rehab Construction for Residential Properties Ordinance 961. So just to give you guys an idea of what this is, it's a 10-year abatement for improvements to existing residential properties containing one or more units. This particular ordinance is not available for hotels, but I'm going to be going over some of the other opportunities depending on your project.
Okay, so where could someone find out more about this tax abatement program?
So all of the information is readily available on philly.gov. Generally, because of how comprehensive the information is on this government website, I generally will just Google it, tax abatement Philadelphia. Tax abatements are locally administered by the city of Philadelphia. So this is an exclusive program specifically for projects within Philadelphia County. There's also the state mandate for under State Act 135 for the development abatement for new or improved residential properties. And then there's also the rehab and new construction for commercial and industrial properties under Ordinance 1130. So there's also a new construction for residential properties under the Ordinance 1456A. And then this is for new construction. So there are definitely a lot of different ways that you can, alleviate some of the tax implications of increasing the property value. This means putting in a new bathroom, renovating your kitchen. You won't have to see the increase in taxes over the next 10 years, but there are some changes.
Moving into that, will exemption terms change in 2021?
So yes, they will on some aspects. Now, one nice thing that's really great about the bill that City Council passed on December 10th outlined three different terms. Now they're still being evaluated by the administration. Mayor Kenny has not signed any of these bills yet to date. But the nice thing, overarching benefit to the information in the update on December 10th is that you have an additional year. So that doesn't mean that you can wait to apply for your tax abatement for this year. It's just extending the tax exemption terms as they are read today for another year. And this is probably because the city understands that, look, this year has been very challenging for all of us. So they're granting that extra year for individuals, investors, property owners to be able to take advantage of the tax terms that are written. For example, the Bill 20, I'm not even going to go to, it doesn't even, it was Bill 20-0556. So it assesses a 1% tax on residential construction and improvements. So this tax is going to actually go into effect January 1st, 2022. So that one was extended for another year. Bill 20-0653, it actually changes the real estate tax exemption schedule for improvements to commercial properties from a 100% exemption for 10 years to a 90% exemption for 10 years. So this one is the most significant, as I was referring to on the ordinance the ordinance 961, the rehab construction for residential properties. This does not, they extended it a full year. So, and I know that there was some talks about the commercial, which we'll get to shortly, but the we were talking about how this was the last year that you would be able to file for a tax abatement for commercial properties. So they've extended that. Now, the change would apply to applications for the exemption made after December 31st, 2021. So that's bill number 200653 as it pertains to commercial properties. And then the last bill, it delays a previously enacted change to the abatement for new residential construction by a year. Previously, the change was going to start on January 1st, 2021. Under this bill, it's going to start January 1st, 2022. So this particular bill affects residential abatements applied for on or before December 31st, 2021, as long as you file your tax abatement application for permits that you've obtained this year and again next year with another tax abatement application, you will get that whole tax abatement period of 10 years. So applications received after next year, only the first year's assessable amount of construction costs would be 100% exempt from tax. So as it's written today, you're 100% exempt for all of the improvements that you've made on your rehab for this year for residential, which is great. But if you do not do a project if you didn't do a project this year because it was pushed back and you're doing it next year, you can still enjoy this. If you decide to postpone your project into 2022, you would not be eligible for the 10-year 100% exemption as it's written today, because you're required to file when you submit the application, you're required to file the building permit, and it has to be within that tax year. So if you did a improvement on anything this year, why not try? Why not try to apply for an abatement? You know, this kind of stuff is always very subjective, and it really depends on the increase of property value, which is why I like to focus on the big things. Renovating a bathroom, not just renovating a fixture. You know, it's about the whole package. If you're increasing the size of, the house, you're adding an addition, you're increasing the number of bedrooms from what it used to be. These are all ways that you can increase the value of your property. So, that's what these ordinances are written for those individuals rehabbing and making our environment, the place that we live, a nicer place to live, our communities. So that's kind of like an overview of the changes there. Now, they have outlined this online. So all of this you can follow up on. Like I said, just, put into Google tax abatement and construction tax bills passed by city council. Or, you can get on my email list and I'll make sure that this information gets out to you in a timely fashion.
Yeah, I think you briefly touched on this, but could you go into a few more specifics regarding who can apply for a tax abatement?
Sure. So the urgency right now, so you can get your tax abatement filed and in effect for 2021. Residential property owners. You can also be a commercial property owner. So of course there are different tax rules that go with that. I'm not a CPA, but essentially doesn't really matter who you are and what size your project is or what the type is. You are eligible to get a tax abatement, and the application is free. You don't have to spend anything. Now, it may change I mean, one of the concerns, or one of the assumptions that lead me, I'm sorry, let me back up. One of the reasons that leads me to that assumption that the application may not continue to be free is because right now the tax abatement unit out of the Office of Property Assessment, Department of Revenue, they're largely on paper. So unlike Eclipse, where it's very kind of like tech savvy when it comes to the world of licensing and permitting, a lot of the operations right now are all paper based. So when the shutdown happened, this unit, they did not have the capacity to be able to work remotely. So what we're seeing right now is a lot of these projects that have already been delayed. Um, there's even from tax abatements from last year. I mean, I was actually talking to a client earlier today, and they're processing June and July right now, meaning applications that were submitted in June and July. So, there's definitely going to be a waiting period. It normally takes the city 3 to 4 months to process an application. But when it's for everyone. To answer your question, it's not hard. Don't mail it, please don't mail it. It will get lost. Your best course of action to have that confirmation that your application was received and recorded is to go there in person. They will give you a scanned copy of the stamped application, and you can request that. Maybe they forgot to do that, but generally, when you're going there in person, they want to make sure that you have the information that you need to, so you can start your next plan. Because remember, this is a tax abatement talking about properties that are being bought and sold, all with pending tax abatement applications. So you have to do your due diligence and follow up. Our firm, what we do is we physically go there in person. We do not mail. And we sometimes will be like, hey, like, their office hours have been very, very weird lately. So their office hours, they've been shutting down at 3:30 every day. And on Wednesdays, they're not open at all. So if you miss them, generally I'll leave a note on the desk and just like let them know, hey, I dropped this off. Sorry, I missed you. If you wouldn't mind sending me a stamped copy of my application to confirm receipt, I would appreciate it. And they always do. They always do. I got one today. So, they're definitely very helpful. You just have to know the right questions to ask. So make sure you get that stamped scanned version of your application.
Okay. Yeah, speaking of that, yeah, the nature of this information, this conversation is clearly time sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Could you go into a few more specifics about the hard deadlines surrounding like applications for these tax abatements or any part of the process?
Sure. So to be eligible for a tax abatement, you have to have had an issued building permit this year. You have to have a building permit. If you've done mechanical, electrical, and plumbing improvements, which most major alteration projects normally would include, you also submit those. The cost of the work is the most important, because the cost of the work that you put on your application must equal to the dollar the total of work that you have gotten permits for. So that application needs to be turned in to the tax abatement unit no later than 12/31. December 31st of this month. So if you have multiple tax abatement applications that you're going, you say you're an investor and you've got, 10, 15, 20 properties that you're filing these abatements for, each of those applications must be separate and they must be filled out accurate. Now, the reason that I can speak intelligently about this process is because I file these. So you can actually hire me to prepare your tax abatement application and deliver it. So because of the nature of how time sensitive these are, we are actually accepting tax abatement application jobs until the 30th. So we're actually like within 24 hours notice, we'll be able to get your tax abatement application in on time. Last minute requests are welcome. There's no rush fee. It's just the scurry of the end of the year, and you have to get these applications in. If you have done work and you have not gotten a permit, no, your tax abatement will not be approved, but you can use this as a learning lesson for next year. Get all your proper permits, make sure the cost of the work is accurate. Cost of work, unless it's an electrical permit, the cost of the work has no bearing on how the city calculates permit fees. So don't be concerned about putting an actual or higher than estimate cost on your tax abatement application, because at the end of the day, that's just a factor in how they calculate the taxation of the increased property value. There's a lot of different factors that contribute to that. So what's most important is that you're accurate in the things that you submit and you get them in on time.
All right, so let's talk a bit more about your firm. So what does it mean to hire Kelsey and Company to file a tax abatement?
So we have this little nifty form that is now on our website. It's very easy. It's step 1, 2, 3. What you do is you send us the property address on the form. I mean, the form literally takes less than 5 minutes. And we'll do all the fact checking. We'll do all the verifying. The only thing that we ask you to confirm is that, yes, I have filed building permits. They are under my name as the property owner, and I am the property owner, verified property owner, according to the Office of Property Assessments. So an easy way to check that, and I know that OPA has been delayed. Sometimes updating the property ownership, which would generally happen if you're going through L&I and filing a permit. That's done with the settlement sheet, the signed settlement sheet, or HUD, or the e-recorded deed. So there's a few ways to do this to get your actual ownership on the books, but we'll take it from there. If you need us to locate your building permit, say you hired a GC to do all the permitting, you have no idea what's out there, you can hire us to actually submit that, find it and submit it. Now, permit copies, before the shutdown were $15 a copy. So I'm actually actively obtaining the new procedures for obtaining permit copies. We haven't had to do this yet because all of our existing tax abatement application jobs are from existing clients, and we already have their permits because we filed them. So if that's you in your boat and you're like, I have no idea what permits were filed, go to Atlas. You can check it on your computer at home. Atlas. Yeah, I'll even pull it up right here. It's give you the exact URL, Atlas. So it's atlas.phila.gov. And this will give you all the information that you need down to the permit number. If you don't have those copies, we'll find them for you. Upon filing the tax abatement application, we'll send you an email. It's just good business practice to always scan as they are the entire paper packet, even if we've been sent incremental files. It's really important that you have a full scope of what we actually handed over to the city. Sometimes when they only stamp 1 or 2 pages. So it's really important that you have that fact checking mechanism. So if they come back asking for questions, you could say, look, like I hired someone to do it. They sent me the whole scanned like folder for it. I know exactly what they submitted. You should have it. So this will just help manage the process and keep it smooth, because things do get lost sometimes. I mean, we're humans, and because of what I said earlier, OPA being Department of Revenue being very much paper operation, it's more likely to experience human error. So that's why I said go there, do it in person, don't mail it, don't leave it up to the city to make sure that your application has been processed. We'll send you a number to call, which is generally 3 weeks after the application date that you go and file it, to make sure that they've received it, because it gets stamped and then it goes to someone else, then it goes to someone else for processing. So there's like a few different fact checking processes that your application goes through. So you want to make sure that you're constantly on top of the department in case they need anything, any additional information. And they won't tell you this over the phone. Like if they need something else to supplement, what they'll do is they'll actually mail it to you. But again, it's going to take, even before the shutdown, it was 3 to 4 months, 90 days minimum for the city to process these applications. It's probably going to go well into the new year. So, but here's the nice thing. And I want to say this. Say you did obtain your building permits, you did not hire a firm like us to make sure that all of the information was accurate. Don't be alarmed. You can still get the full value of your tax abatement, but you have to supplement your application. Most importantly, though, this application needs to be filed on time. There's always ways that you can make it correct and accurate and provide more information in contracts to confirm the work and the money that you spent on rehabbing your project. But getting that application in on time is absolutely a key to the entire success of even making yourself eligible to be receiving this abatement for 10 years. I mean, it's an amazing deal. We don't get involved with the management of it. I mean, we guess we can, but it's really best handled by an attorney, because what ends up happening is, especially right now, a lot of the property is getting bought and sold. And if you have a pending tax abatement application on a property that you're about to sell, you have to know how to close up the deal, because you've got this pending tax exemption and that's still being processed. You have no idea where it is in the process, but you want to close on your property. So I work very closely with our partnering zoning attorney law firm, and they actually handle a lot of these cases. So if you're, concerned about the progress, where it's at, checking up on the permit, these are things that are really best handled by an attorney, because it's just, there's so many intricacies with this process that can happen. So that's why we just do the filing. We actually have a package that the tax abatement's included within the building permit. So we call that the build abatement package. And the clients who opt in for that kind of package right out the gate, they also get a discount. So, making sure that your permits are accurate is number one. Making sure you have, actually, I should say, making sure that you actually get a permit for your job is the most important. And I know a lot of people are like, I don't really want to go through that, open the can of worms. Look, if you do what's compliant, you'll get rewarded. And the tax abatement is a reward for that. So it's like I said, it's free. It's a free application. But if you want our firm to do it for you for whatever reason, you're out of town on vacation and you're like, shoot, I forgot to file it. It's the 30th of December. You're like, I have no idea like if I'm going to be able to do this. You can call us and we'll do it for you. And we can handle whatever needs to happen on our end, which has to do with getting the building permit copies.
Okay, and you touched on this a little bit here and there in your last response, but just to play devil's advocate for a moment, let's say that I'm a GC or a building owner or there was some type of project, and I want this tax abatement, or I have a permit I need filed, and I'm thinking to myself, oh well, I know what permit I need, and I know where the building's at, I know where the office is at, I know when they're open, and why am I hiring PhillyKelsey&Co when it's, I can go to myself and take care of all this?
Yeah. And well, I mean, that's a great point. And in fact, if you've never filed a tax abatement application before, why not learn for yourself? All of this stuff that I'm regurgitating, I'm giving you guys the highlights and kind of what I've learned on my own experience, but going through the process on your own, if you have the time, do it. The only difference I would say is make sure you pay attention to the tax abatement requirements, which may or may not involve having a CPA look at your project when you're initially doing the financial assessment and when you're getting that mortgage lined up. I mean, there's too many variables for you to go into this knowing 100% everything. And that's one thing that we always say. It's like, look, we're going to handle the application for you. We'll make sure it's accurate. We'll make sure because inaccurate applications, they just get tossed. They won't be processed. So that number comes down to the cost to work. Does that match your building permits? And that's the kind of information that we make sure is consistent. We also make sure that the owner of record is matching all of the permits. I was speaking earlier about OPA being delayed and updating the property ownership with an e-signed, e-recorded deed or a signed settlement sheet. And, if you aren't double checking because you're not doing this on a frequent basis or know what to look for, these things can be very easily overlooked. So generally, the people that hire me for a tax abatement have their hands caught up in something else, or they can't do it in person, or, maybe they submitted an application by mail and have no idea where it is. We're in that predicament right now. So if you want to leave it to the professional. If you're in any way uncomfortable with this process, hire someone to do it the first time, have them teach you. But again, like if you're the kind of do-it-yourself person and you want to battle through it the first time, I mean, that just makes my job easier when you come back next year, because then you'll understand what I'm going through. You just will. So I think that you need to make sure that you know what you're getting into, you have a plan, because everything affects everything. Your end result is a tax abatement. What do you have to do in advance thereof? And it's kind of working backwards. And that's project planning. It is very core. It's the same way that you would look at permits, when you're doing an assessment on a property that's distressed. We do a lot of distressed permits. We do a lot of permitting for pre-existing work done by previous owners. So, it's how when that interested buyer comes in, they're like, okay, well, give me the steps. Like, what do I expect? Am I going to have to go and get a variance to approve the duplex that I purchased and didn't do any research on? How much is that going to cost? So it's like any opportunity. You really just you want to know your goal, and you want to do your best to stay within those goals by tapping into resources that are presented to you by the people that you hire for these jobs. I mean, that's really what you're paying for. You're paying for the time to do it and the experience. And hopefully that makes everyone's life a little bit easier in the end.
So, is there anything particular regarding this whole process that your firm doesn't do or will not do?
So I actually have a really nice one sheet, which I can certainly provide to kind of give a little bit of insight on some unique a la carte situations, as we say. We don't advise. I mean, we're not lawyers, we're not CPAs. We're not the one to sit there and go through, an entire portfolio and choose a strategy. At the end of the day, you come with us with a permit. We already know what abatement you're eligible for, and you probably already know that as well, especially when you get into commercial. I mean, I don't think I have not handled one commercial tax abatement application, because these are generally managed at a higher level. I mean, these are generally managed by the CPAs, by the attorneys. So, the people that are hiring us, they are looking for advice. They're looking for someone to walk them through it. And unfortunately, our license and our ability is simply of matters of execution. It's telling you what we need to include in the application if we're missing information. But, when you're getting into the weeds with this stuff, which will often happen, we can't sit on the phone with you and advise. We can regurgitate information, we can regurgitate instructions, but it's really best fit for a lawyer, because you need to work with someone who has the ability to provide solutions for whatever challenge you're facing, including the preparation of an escrow agreement so your property can settle. And that can only be prepared by an attorney. So, it's easier when you're mitigating these challenges to really have someone who's full service start to finish. We certainly advise, we refer everyone over to our attorney, and that's actually built into our package, our build abatement package. So that actually covers the fees to transfer file records from us submitting your application to our partnering law firm. And then that way there's no downtime. They're already familiar with your case. We have all of the records already prepared for them. So, the efficiency of that is very convenient, but it's more convenient to have the confidence that the firm that you're working with has the resources to be able to mitigate those types of challenges. So, advising the whole way through, that's not us. We don't advise. We'll execute and inform, and we'll connect the dots with people to get the questions that you have answered.
Okay, so just to wrap up, do you have any final pieces of advice for viewers and listeners regarding what they could do to prepare themselves in 2021?
Yeah. Well, because a lot of these terms for exemption have been elongated, get your permits in, plan your project, be thorough. If you're planning on replacing the bathroom, why not just improve the entire bathroom, put new tile in, paint it? It's things like that really do make a big difference on the value of your property, especially if you're going to sell it. I understand that there's the trials and tribulations of permitting. You have to go through inspections, but at the end of the day, wouldn't you want your home to be inspected? I mean, really, I would feel more comfortable if I purchased a property that had went through all of the proper permitting processes, because I don't want to be living in a fire trap, which kind of why one of the main reasons that the city started cracking down on, who can file permits and, the processes related to those. So you just don't want poorly built houses anymore, especially new construction. Should not have plumbing issues on a house that was built 2 years ago. So, go do your due diligence. Know that there are plenty of resources out there, and all you got to do is ask. You can also Google it, but ask every professional that you're working with if there's something else that you can do or uncover or share. You can ask us, we'll send you links to all of the information that we've sourced for this video. And I encourage you guys to get on the email list for L&I as well. They don't send emails that often, but the tax bills that were passed by city council, I got directly from that email. So just stay on top of things, get things in on time, and you have people who will help you. Whatever it is, achieve your your new dream house, or your next rental property. File an abatement and see where it goes.
Well, Kelsey, I'd like to thank you again for taking time out of your schedule to sit down with us and get us this timely information, which is clearly like very time sensitive. It's maybe 2 weeks at this point, if that, for people to leverage it.
10 days.
10 days, less than 2 weeks.
So
what are some ways that people could reach out to you to talk to you more about this, or to say, hey, I need this done? Like, just do whatever you got to do. Here's your check.
Okay, so I have a form. It makes it really easy. I can actually show it right now, if I'm able to. So, but if you can, Yardell, share. If you go to PhillyKelsey.co, so PhILLY, Kelsey, KELSEY.co, you will be able to find the button to our form under the tab Get Started.
Okay, I'll provide that in the show notes, and make sure it's prominent so anyone can find it.
Yep. So that's the easiest way to get us started on your job. Like I said, it takes 5 minutes. And the button, we'll respond to you in a few hours. You still have to go through the normal intake process because we're, doing a service on your behalf. But it's a contract sign. It's a payment of $300, and we'll take care of the rest. We'll give you all the information that you need in order to, fact check that, the city did in fact receive it.
Well, again, thank you again for joining us. And I'd like to thank everyone who took time out of their day to watch or listen to this. Again, my name is Yardell Perkins. I'm the co-founder and co-host of Smart Real Estate Podcast, Smart Real Estate RIA. Thanks for watching and listening, and we hope to see you soon on our next stream. Take care, everyone, and have a great day, afternoon, or evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Yardell.